Over the last 10 years, the ability of computers to identify faces has gotten 100 times better, 1,000,000 times faster, and exponentially cheaper.
To use face recognition, use the color-coded button on your remote.
Facial recognition is already in some of our home appliances, like TVs.
Hi, TV.
And big business is free to do this kind of surveillance, while government has all kinds of restrictions.
What's unique about face recognition is the fact that you can do it surreptitiously from a distance and continually.
It can happen, we don't even know.
That's the point.
Camp 14 was all that Shin Dong-hyuk says he knew for the first 23 years of his life. 15,000 people are believed to be imprisoned here, surrounded by an electrified fence.
Did anybody ever explain to you why you were in a camp?
No, never. Because I was born there, I just thought those people who carry guns were born to carry guns. And prisoners like me were born as prisoners.
It's just unbelievable. Michael Jackson sells more tickets dead than most artists do alive.
That is absolutely true. He's the biggest selling artist on iTunes, and he's sold approximately 50 million albums since he passed away.
Tonight, you'll hear about the most remarkable financial and image resurrection in pop culture history.
Wow, the Neverland. That's the actual sign from Neverland?
And get a rare look at what Michael Jackson left behind.
More cars.
More cars.
I'm Steve Croft.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bob Simon.
I'm Lara Logan.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
I'm Scott Pelley. Those stories tonight on 60 Minutes.
This portion of 60 Minutes is sponsored by Northern Trust, providing solid financial solutions for more than 123 years.
It's been almost 4 years since Michael Jackson died, but he continues to make headlines, some of them coming out of a Los Angeles courtroom right now, where his mother is suing for damages over his death from a powerful anesthetic in June 2009. But the headline of this story is that Michael Jackson is making more money after his death than he ever did when he was alive. Tonight, you'll hear about the most remarkable financial and image resurrection in pop culture history and get a rare look at what Michael Jackson left behind. The Michael Jackson brand is alive and well paid, that is, extremely well paid. Barcelona, Spain, the 297th performance of the Michael Jackson Immortal World Tour. Cirque du Soleil produces the show, featuring their acrobats and contortionists. But Michael Jackson, or at least his music, is the star.
We sold 230,000 tickets in 2 days in Japan. We did 90,000 people in Moscow, 190,000 people in Mexico City alone.
John Branca is an executor of Michael Jackson's estate, an architect, if you will, of how to make money off his legacy, most of which will eventually be turned over to Jackson's 3 children. Branca was Jackson's lawyer and advisor off and on for over 25 years and negotiated many of the singer's biggest deals during his lifetime.
It's just unbelievable. Michael Jackson sells more tickets dead than most artists do alive.
That is absolutely true. Worldwide box office now is over $300 million. And Michael has almost 60 million Facebook friends. He's the biggest selling artist on iTunes, and he's sold approximately 50 million albums since he passed away.
It feels like you can't talk about all those great things about Michael without talking about the fact that his image was so battered and tarnished by the time of his death. Have his fans just forgotten about all of that, about all the weirdness?
As managers of the estate, we don't really pay attention to the tabloids. We look at the Michael that we knew, the real Michael, the artistic genius, the visionary.
The real Michael Jackson also told Ed Bradley on 60 Minutes that he let young boys sleep in his bed. You can't run away from that, right? You can't hide from it.
Well, I don't recall that interview, and I just know the Michael Jackson that I knew was somebody I considered, a very honorable person.
John Branca chooses his words carefully. Another subject he doesn't like to discuss is Michael Jackson's family. Jackson's father and some of his siblings challenged Branca as executor and the validity of Jackson's will. But the California courts upheld the will and Branca's ability to carry out Michael Jackson's wishes.
There was a series of wills, and they were substantively almost identical.
In that 20% went to charity, 40% went to his children, and 40% went to his mother as long as she was alive, and on her death would go to the children. The basic principle never changed.
Never changed. The whole objective of Michael's estate plan is to take care of his mother during her lifetime and to accumulate the principal and the assets for the benefit of Michael's children.
The will named Branca and John McClane, a longtime friend of Michael Jackson, as co-executors. Jackson's crippled image was not the only thing they had to contend with. At first glance, Michael Jackson left more debt than anything.
The day he died, Michael Jackson had about $500 million in debt.
Zach O'Malley Greenberg is a senior editor for Forbes magazine, and he's been covering the estate since Jackson's death.
How much did his lifestyle and his personality have to do with his debt?
He never stopped spending like it was the 1980s. We charted it in Forbes. I mean, he was making 50, 60, 80, over $100 million some of those years, and even into the 90s. But after the first allegations in 1993, he never toured in the U.S. again. He never got another endorsement deal in his lifetime.
The first allegations of child abuse?
In 1993, correct. He became, in many ways, radioactive to brands and to sorts of companies that would contribute to those massive paydays in the 80s. And the upkeep on a place like Neverland, the spending on antiques and so forth, and the maintenance of his entourage and all of that, it really added up.
This is one of how many warehouses that you have?
5. You can see how he spent his money and some of what made up his extravagant lifestyle in this California warehouse.
Wow, the Neverland. That's the actual sign from Neverland?
That is the actual sign from Neverland that was over the gates.
Karen Langford was friends with Michael Jackson and worked with him from 1981 until his death. She's now the archivist for the Jackson estate. There are rows and rows, floor to ceiling, of Jackson's possessions, most of it never seen publicly since he died. This warehouse is 20,000 square feet. Every inch of it is full. There are antiques and video games from Neverland Ranch. His Grammys.
Best R&B vocal performance, male, 1983, Billie Jean.
And 30 years of cars he never wanted to get rid of.
Are these all Michael's cars?
These are some of them.
Some of them?
Some of them.
More cars.
More cars.
There's another Rolls Royce.
Yeah, well, there's a few.
Did he drive any of these cars?
He did drive on occasion.
Late in his life, Michael Jackson financed much of his lifestyle by routinely borrowing against his assets. But it wasn't these personal belongings that he used as collateral. Although the copyright value of his own songs was worth well in excess of $100 million, the crown jewel of his investment strategy was his portfolio of other people's songs, especially those of the Beatles.